only podcast that brings a Red Raider and a fighting Texas Aggie together, spanning 438 miles away. It's another edition of the Fifth Quarter, a college sports podcast. Good morning, everybody. I'm George Koff, and I'd like to welcome in my sidekick and my co-host, Desmond McLaughlin. Good morning, Desmond.
Good morning, George.
So we saw a lot of stuff in college football this weekend, big and small, even though some people claimed it was, quote-unquote, Cupcake Sunday. Saturday, sorry. Cupcake Sunday, Saturday. I mean, I say Cupcake Sunday because that was what it was in the NFL, too. But, I mean, sorry to throw hands, but it just was. So let's go ahead and get right into this. I think we might as well, and it comes with saying that A&M was playing the biggest game of the week. That is, they played the number 2 team in the nation in Clemson. Being here in College Station, starting after we spoke on Tuesday afternoon, or Tuesday morning rather, it just seemed like everything was hype. Everybody was enjoying themselves. They were getting ready for the game. The talk around the town was, how many points are we going to put up on Clemson? How are we going to contend? And you know what? I went to College Game Day. I had my sign. My sign was beautiful. I got on TV. I told you what. Tell you what. I woke up at 5 a.m. Okay, that says something. I woke up at 5 a.m.
Wow.
Stood out there for about 6 hours. Saw Corso pick against my Aggies. It was hard watching that. And then, of course, we put up a hell of a fight. And the first half was boring. Clemson really did. I had said last week that they were going to feel the pressure in the first half, and then the second half, A&M was gonna, the defense was gonna have to play well, and everyone. Yes, that happened. But first half, Clemson came out strong. They were booking it. They had some really big plays. I mean, up 14-3 at half, 14-3 at halftime. Check that, 14-6 at halftime. It just tells you that, I mean, Clemson was the number 2 team. I mean, at that point. But then Kellen Mond is like, okay, let me take some of this Michael Jordan's secret stuff, from Space Jam, and he throws 430, ends up with 430-yard passing, 3 touchdowns, and only about 375 of those were in the first half, or second half rather. So Aggies keep it close. We got a missed field goal, a fumble out of the end zone for a touchback, a missed 2-point conversion, lots of bad calls by the refs. I don't want to throw the refs under any, I don't want under the bus, but bad called game there. And we almost were, we were very close to the first big upset of the season. Like I said earlier, Clemson did not look like the number 2 team in the nation.
No, they did not.
I mean, I'm surprised that if they were not in the ACC, they would get destroyed. Their schedule is nothing remotely close to what A&M's is, what Alabama, Auburn, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, Arkansas, Missouri, Florida, anyone in the SEC, anyone in even the Big 12 for that matter. I mean, I'm just going to throw it out there. Clemson has one of the weakest schedules out there, and people were making fun of that College Game Day, and just, I think they will get into the playoff, but only because they're playing the ACC. What's your take on that?
I know, I agree with that, George, but I also do not believe that they'll make it in the playoffs. I think there'll be better teams that deserve a better chance to be in the playoffs than they do.
I mean, the playoff is supposed to give us the top 4 best teams.
Exactly.
Okay? The 4 best teams, not the 4 that are the most deserving. Mm-hmm. And I honestly...
And Clemson's not one of the top 4 best teams.
They're not. They may not be, but are you going to put a Pac-12 champion in the playoff before you're going to put the ACC champion? I mean, right now the Pac-12 champion is looking like it's either going to be Washington, USC if they can come back, Colorado even. People don't count out Colorado. I tell you, I think the ACC is going to get in. Clemson will get in, but only because you're looking at the 4 Power 5 conferences that have the best 4 teams, and I don't think the Pac-12 has a better team than Clemson. So I think this week, Aggies are going to get back. Redemption Saturday. They're going to, unfortunately, sorry ULM fans, Warhawk fans out there, if you decide to listen to our podcast, you're going to get put out of your misery. 60-17 A&M. It's done before the second quarter begins. But I don't want to say 60 points because up there in Lubbock, 77 points on Lamar. Desmond,
Yes,
what do we
sir.
got? What do we got up there?
Well, George, the game was hot. It was sweaty, miserable, but we got the win. That's when Cliff Kingsbury needs, even if it is just against Lamar. He's on a timetable. He needs as many wins as he can get this year. The good thing is this is the most points that Texas Tech's put up since 2005. Complete shutout.
Dang.
Wasn't a game. Back quarterback Alec Bowman threw for 285 yards. I liked what I saw from T.J. Vasher. Defense only gave up 80 yards passing, but I have nothing against Alec Bowman. I just don't think that he's a very good quarterback.
Why do you say that?
Watching him on the field, I did not like the decision making he had. He was just throwing jump balls up, and you can get away with those balls when you're playing against like a team like Lamar, But those throws against a team like Alabama or Auburn, or even like an average team like Florida, those balls would be picked off every single time.
Exactly, and that's, I mean, it is Lamar, but you have to say it for Texas Tech, for you being a Texas Tech fan, and for just Texas Tech in general, it was definitely what the doctor ordered.
Yes, it is definitely what everyone was expecting. Walking to the game, I heard a bunch of guys being like, "Oh, it's about to be 100-0." So this isn't a surprise to me that we put up so many points. This is what was expected.
But at least the expectations were met, and it wasn't like a 44-20.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. In the beginning of the game, first few drives, I was like, And, towards the end, I was like, yeah, this is what I expected.
I mean, didn't they put up like 35 points in the second quarter or something?
Yeah. In the second quarter is like when it started, I was like, okay, this is good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, the poor Lamar. I mean, especially if you're Texas Tech, you're coming from that loss last week in Houston. You're coming back home, first home game of the season. You just got to get back on the right note. And like I said with ULM, they're going to feel our misery. Lamar felt y'all's misery. And
Cliff Kingsbury did not care. It was like, I forgot what it was. It was like 27 seconds left, fourth and goal, and he went for it. And of course, we got the touchdown. But I was like, whoa, what's going on here, buddy?
Hey, but that's what you want to see. Even if you're playing that type of opponent, you want to see something like that where you're going for it, or you're taking risks so that you can prepare yourself for better opponents and more and for that Big 12 play, and for even opponents that are going to be better than Lamar, and you still want to have that same mindset. It's just like what Jimbo Fisher said here. He said, you even like coming from last week to Clemson, you still have to play with that toughness, that grit. You have to play like you're playing the number 1 team in the nation. You're playing Alabama. Well, not Alabama. Well, it is Alabama, but I mean, you're playing with that mindset that you can be anybody with the same strategy, the same play, the same toughness, same grit, same everything. And of course, we put up 59 points last week, and then we put up 26 this week against Clemson. I mean, that's still a lot. And in Texas Tech, you put up 40 or 26 last week, and you put up 77 this week. Good day. I saw something that said that Texas Tech is still they're still projecting them to be bowl eligible.
Mm-hmm.
Your take on that?
I think they will be. Yes, definitely.
I mean, we were talking about this last week, how many conference wins we thought Texas Tech was going to get. Even with the low amount that you were saying, you're still thinking bowl eligibility.
I think that there might be a couple games where they actually surprise us. I don't know where that is yet, but I believe that they will be bowl eligible this year.
So you're going with me then, because I'd said that there were going to be some surprises, and you were doubting me, and you're like, oh well, we'll see what happens. But,
well, George, after watching A&M surprise with Clemson, I think a lot of things are possible right now.
I definitely agree with that. But so U of H comes into town to Lubbock next week.
It does.
Any concern, or do you think?
Well, I don't know, George. I mean, it's Texas Tech, but I think I think it'll be a lot closer than we expect. You know, Houston's 2-0 right now, but also they played like Rice in Arizona. But you can never sleep on them, you know? You can't just like say that it's gonna be a blowout. You know, I feel like kind of average. I feel like we're somewhat in the same medium, but I think Texas Tech will get the win.
So if U of H gets the win, let's just say if the Cougars come into Lubbock, get the win, you see them ranked next week or no?
No, I do not.
So you're saying that it's kind of not a mediocre game, but like it's not where that caliber that yes, U of H just got to win over a Big 12 team.
Right. No.
I'm with you. I think Texas Tech might actually pull off something, but I think if Ed Oliver starts to make a presence early,
right,
there's no stopping the Cougars. The offense can click when it needs to. I mean, look at what they did to Kevin Sumlin's defense last week. They just destroyed, or this past week, they destroyed Arizona. They destroyed they just destroyed the rush defense and the pass defense for that matter too. I think it was like 45-17 was the final.
Yeah.
I mean, I think people in the American might need to watch out for U of H, but I'm with you. I think Texas Tech might pull off something this week. So, speaking of top 25, lately we've seen some interesting ups and downs, but I think A&M should be ranked. I'd like to start the argument here. That's argument number one and case number one is Texas A&M, despite losing by 2 to Clemson, to the number 2 team in the nation, should be ranked at least number 25. Or Clemson should have gone down. One of the two.
Clemson definitely should have gone down. I do not believe that they should be ranked number 2. I believe it's all hype.
I just think that Kelly Bryant is okay. He can play when he needs to play good, but you have to look at. I think my opinion is that if A&M really dominates this week, the top 25 will have there will be no reasons against them for not ranking A&M, because they'll be 2-1 going to Alabama the following week, and there will be that's still good enough to be in the top 25 this early on in the season. Their loss is the 2 points to number 2 team in the nation, or is what number 2 what they think, and I just don't see why they're not ranked over like Michigan State, who lost. Okay, mind you, they lost on a last-second field goal to Arizona State, and they barely got a win over Utah State in the first week of the season. They had to almost come back in overtime. No, I think they did go to overtime. I mean, they're 25. They're number 25 currently. And you're telling me that A&M is worse than that?
I don't, honestly, in my opinion, I do not see why Clemson's ranked number 2. Their schedule is not hard at all.
I mean, they play Georgia Southern next week. And then they play Georgia Tech. And then Syracuse. And then Florida State, who's looking like a little... I don't know.
They look lost. They look lost.
I don't know what the right word is. Lost might be good, but I really I don't. Seeing them against Virginia Tech, I thought, oh, maybe they'll do something in Willie Taggart's debut. Like, okay, and then they lose 24-3. Like, okay, well, that's Virginia Tech might actually be better than we expect.
Right.
And then they play Samford, not Stanford, Samford out of Georgia. So I think a small school in Georgia, literally, and they have to come back in the fourth quarter. Excuse me for that voice crack, but in the fourth quarter, they have to come back against an FCS foe. Yeah, Florida State's another story, but that's...
George, let me tell you one team I'm starting to fall in love with. Oklahoma University. I know, opponent in the Big 12, but I don't know because, it's Daniel Lamb, Richmond, Texas, Falls High School, but man, that bad man Murray.
Hey, like we'd say at A&M,
bad man.
Aggies don't boo; they hiss.
I don't know.
Pissed off, and you know what?
306 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, George. 16 yards rushing with 2 touchdowns. That's 5 touchdowns in total, George.
Rodney Anderson's probably going to be out for the year, and Kyler Murray is literally
bad man.
I don't think he's the front runner for the Heisman. I think
I
Will
don't know,
Greer is still
George.
there. That
He's looking nice.
I just want to say the SEC is looking strong in the top 25.
Okay, SEC always looks strong.
And poor Big 12 has, let's see, Oklahoma, TCU, West Virginia, and that's it. And Oklahoma State. I'm sorry, Oklahoma State.
All I'm saying, George, is I'm keeping a watch on this man. I'm keeping a watch on this team. I think they're a sleeper. I can see them being in the top 4 at the end of the year, George. I'm calling it right now.
So you're saying playoff for Oklahoma?
I am.
And you're saying they're going to win the Big 12?
Yes, I definitely think that the Big.
So who they play in the Big 12?
Oof, that is a tough one, George.
Like, who would they play in the championship game that you're going to say, oh, they just dominate?
I think maybe West Virginia. Definitely.
I could see that. I could see West Virginia or TCU.
Because I definitely, Will Greer, is he like top five in passing yards right now in the league? I believe he's 5th.
It's week 2.
I'm just saying, George, he's off to a good start.
It's week 2.
George, it's a good start, George.
Give people a break, and it leads to my next point. Okay, AP voters, it's week 2. Let's get this bottom of the rankings, the last 10. Let's get them right. Let's stop ranking the top 15 and be like, oh, okay, we're just gonna slot these people in there, yada yada yada. But like, no, let's do this the proper way. Let's rank the top 25, the best top 25 teams in college football currently. And whether it's a win or a loss, because at this point in the top 25, we've seen that if you lose by 2 points, you can still be in the top 25. So whether it be a win or a loss, let's rank the top 25 teams that currently are the best in college football, move forward, and stop trying to give me a bunch of this BS that's like, oh, USC is the best, they're still as good, and they're number 22 after putting up a field goal against Stanford, which isn't even, in my opinion, isn't even a top 10 team. I don't know why they're in the top 10, but that's just my opinion. I don't like the Pac-12 because I find that besides Colorado, who might be my sleeper pick for a possible big bowl game, the Pac-12 is weak, and we always see upsets that people are like, oh, they're huge upsets, but you know what? They're just upsets. They're just like all the other ones.
You know, I'm looking forward to a game, George. If I want to see this game this year, George, Georgia, Alabama. I think Georgia could give. No, they don't play in the season, but I would love to see that game. I think Georgia could give Alabama a run for its money.
Like in the SEC championship, is that what you're saying?
Yes, I do. I do. Georgia is looking nice.
I think the thing about Georgia is they are good, and they're still kind of coming off of that national championship hangover, how they had that chance. They had a chance to just close it out, finish it off, defeat Alabama, win the national championship, be this big story, and then it kind of just crumbled. And so they're having to come back from that crumbling and come back up. And I just think that because of what that is going on, I'm with you. I think it would be interesting to see Georgia, Alabama. But don't be surprised if Georgia throws something out there that puts them ahead of Alabama in the playoff. So, and speaking of big games, that one won't be happening this week, possibly the last week of the season. Let's talk about a few. I've got 5 that I think are going to be influential to the college football race and to just this week. BYU at Wisconsin. BYU, they're independent, so they get to play whoever they want. Whoever's putting together the BYU schedule, kudos to them because they put Arizona, Wisconsin, and I think they get some other big school this year on the schedule. So kudos to them for at least giving them something where we're not just saying, oh, they're beating like Utah State and whatever.
Right.
I think people are underestimating what the Cougars can do. I know I have a lot of friends that are at BYU, and they're like, "Come on, we're BYU. We can at least we can compete, and we can compete. We're not going to be the best team in the nation every year, and we're not going to be close to that. But we can do better than just 6-6 or 7-5. We can go 8-4, 9-3. Like, why not?" So Wisconsin, they just the last few years when they play these games, these early season games before the Big Ten, just like they like to only win like 21-14 or 28-21 or like they only win by a touchdown or two. Watch out, Wisconsin. BYU might come into Camp Randall and make you jump around for something different. Because, yeah. So for me, upset watch. Wisconsin, you got put on upset watch. And last week, when I put who did I put on upset watch for this week? I can't remember. I think I put Clemson on upset watch. You know, they almost came back to win. So
you were close, George. You were close.
A&M almost came back to win. So Wisconsin, you're on upset watch.
I'm putting Ohio State on my upset watch.
Ooh.
I'm like TCU's looking strong this year. They don't have Urban Meyer, but I know Ohio State's still fourth. But is that all hype, George?
Ooh.
We don't know. I definitely be watching this game.
Game Day's going to be there. Urban Meyer still isn't back.
Isn't it? It's at Jerry's World?
It's at Jerry World, yes.
At Jerry World, baby.
But Game Day's going to be on TCU's campus. So I think we'll see what TCU can do. This will be a big chance for them to show the country what they can do. We've seen them destroy Southern the first week, and then they played – I don't even know who they played last week.
And if TCU beats Ohio State, then we might as well like throw them in the Big 12 championship. You know, just throw them in there.
Oh, I mean, I already have them in right now. So that first week that College Game Day did all the different season picks and stuff, predictions, I have TCU winning the Big 12. I'm sorry, but you know, I think TCU, if they can win this game, they're on the road to the Big 12 championship into the playoff. They got robbed that first year of the playoff by Ohio State making it in there because the Big 12 didn't have a conference championship game. So I think they show Ohio State that for all these years we've been waiting to destroy you and get back on that revenge that you just, you know, won the national championship and we had a chance and we could have won the national championship that year. Moving ahead, Vanderbilt and Notre Dame. This could be a good game, but don't expect Notre Dame to keep it close. Vanderbilt is kind of the welcome mat of the SEC. They get trampled on. They get put at the bottom of the SEC East for a reason. Notre Dame wins by 30. They're going to show that they stay in the top 10 because they're Notre Dame.
Right.
Michigan, that win over Michigan shouldn't be that high ranked, but they're still good. Michigan is still a good team. So, the first SEC game of the season, LSU and Auburn.
That'll be a good game to watch. Good game.
I think will finally show us who LSU really is.
Exactly.
Because Miami seemed like they were a fluke. LSU beat Southeastern Louisiana 31-0, but they didn't look confident in the first two quarters. So I think it will finally show us, is Auburn here to play? Or is LSU out here saying, watch out, don't forget about us in the SEC West. We can compete too.
Right.
Any thoughts on that?
I definitely agree with you. It would definitely tell us if the hype over the win at Miami is real, and if they are real contenders, and if they pose a threat to the SEC. This will definitely be a good game to watch. I think, especially you as an Aggie, being from the SEC, you should definitely watch it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be watching this one. Our A&M game is at 6:30 at night Eastern.
I think
Central. So the LSU Auburn game is at 2:30. So I'm gonna probably try to pick up a little bit of it just to see what LSU's doing in the first half and see what room is there for concern for us as Aggies towards the end of the season as we play both teams.
I think an even better game you should watch is the Alabama Ole Miss game.
I mean, last year and the years before, like those 2 years when Ole Miss was able to get a win over Alabama, like, okay, maybe it was that was with Chad Kelly and, like, you know, they were outsmarted Alabama. But honestly, it could be a trap game for Alabama early in the season. I'll probably watch part of it because I want to see Alabama and what they're going to bring to the table for next week's game.
My man Tua
against Texas A&M, and that is the SEC game of the week next week. not this week, but the following, which will be really exciting because, I mean, every Aggie loves to watch a game on national television. No doubt about that. But I think I'm with you. Tua is good. Jalen Hurts might play in the fourth quarter of this one because I'm guessing 45-7. Big.
I'm telling you, man.
Big.
Through 4 touchdowns last week, 228 yards. Tua has he has a starting job. He's not losing it unless something
of course
major
not.
unless he pulls a Jalen Hurts in the national championship game like last year. He's not losing a starting job.
Oh, and I think if I'm Jalen Hurts, I tell Saban, redshirt me. Give me 2 more games to play in and redshirt me. Because this whole 4 games with the redshirt rule, that new rule. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Yeah. No, you don't. Yeah. So with you get this year you get 4 games before you redshirt and lose your red shirt. So, I think they'll give him 3 more games before he's already played in 2, so they'll give him up to that 4, and then Jalen Hurts will have to decide whether or not he's going to transfer, whether he's going to leave, whether or not he can compete next year.
He would transfer.
I think so. I just don't see why. And it's the same deal here at A&M. Nick Starkel is kind of being thrown into the background with as Kellen Mond is just really. I don't think Mond's going to win the Heisman. Of course not. People are like, oh yes, he's going to win the Heisman.
Whoa, easy there.
No, I'm not jumping on that train. I'm sorry. I might be an Aggie fan, but I'm not even. I'm sold on Mond being our starting QB, but I'm not sold on Mond being the best quarterback in college football at this point. Tua or Will Grier or even Kyler Murray are obviously
yes, definitely those top 3. Those are definitely.
But I do think that Kellen Mond is an elite quarterback elite. Okay, there's a difference between elite and top 5. Okay. He is a good enough quarterback to get A&M the wins that they need, the wins that they're going to provide, that he's going to provide for them, the wins that will probably get A&M a 7-5, 8-4, maybe even 9-3 if we're lucky record. But Starkel, he's got to make a decision. Is he going to go? Is he going to stay and hope that he can compete next year? Is Jimbo going to say, well, maybe you can play? I'm going to put you in there the second half of a blowout. I mean, if you're a quarterback and you're only getting playing when the game isn't on the line or doesn't matter, you got to start looking at other options. And I think that's what's happening at Alabama, at A&M, and possibly other places that we don't know. That, like, even at Texas with Ellinger and Shane Buechele. Buechele, I haven't even heard that he's gotten a snap. Maybe he has. I mean, the 2 games that Texas have played have been actually fairly close. But we totally forgot about him. And instead, Sam Ellinger's like, I'm going to take the starting job. You can move, and you can go somewhere else because, you always want to have a good backup just in case of an injury. But backups, I think, in college football tend to get overlooked than they do in the NFL. Because in the NFL, you almost need to have a backup because, like, in this past week, a few quarterbacks went down for a few plays, and you had to have somebody there to guide the offense for maybe a series or 2. And so what's your take on backups in college?
I definitely think, obviously, right now is working for Alabama. They don't want to have Tua injured, but if they do, Jalen Hurts steps right in. They know for sure that they have another quarterback who's had experience, the national championships and big games, and they'll be very confident, And then Ohio State had that kind of situation a couple years ago. Remember that?
Yeah. With J.T. Barrett and what was his name? Cardell Jones, and there was one more.
Braxton Miller.
It.
And he was switched to receiver. Who's now on the Texans, baby.
Go Texans.
It's just it is good to have a great backup quarterback, but this is also college football. Everyone wants to shine. Everyone wants to have the chances.
Everyone's trying to get into the NFL.
Yes, they don't want to be backup, and so they end up transferring. That happened at A&M a couple years ago. Remember when they had the really good quarterbacks when we had
Kyle Allen and Kyler Murray and and Kenny Hill even, and that before he transferred, and they all ended up transferring.
They all
and
transferred.
All of a sudden, you get stuck with no quarterback.
Right. You don't want to be in
Then
that
you-
position.
Exactly, and that's what I think is the problem with the backups is you want to have a backup, but you forget that the backup is probably rarely going to play in college football versus in NFL. Unless that backup is like a freshman or a sophomore, and the starting quarterback is a senior, where they will get their time to shine eventually. But if you have the two quarterbacks who are the same age, the same grade, what are you doing? You choose one, the other one's just going to be sitting there.
Right.
Sitting there like, whatever, I'll go in when you need me, but yeah. So, any more thoughts on that before we move on?
Nah, I agree with you, George.
Yeah.
It is good to have a back quarterback. It's also very hard to keep him, though.
Agreed. And speaking of keeping on track and staying on track, Washington better watch out. I don't usually do this, but I'm putting two teams on upset watch, and that's Wisconsin and Washington. Utah will give Washington a run for their money. I'm not feeling this Husky hype, and they will watch their college football hopes fall and go down the drain quicker than they can say Washington. Okay? Quicker than they can say Washington themselves. They will go. Their hopes will go down the drain. Utah will win by a touchdown.
I'm still keeping Ohio State on upset watch. I'm still keeping an eye on them.
Now, if they lose this game, if Ohio State loses the game, do their hopes, are they done? Or do they still get a chance in the Big Ten?
Yes, they're done.
So you're saying it's win or go home?
Yes.
For
If they
both
lose
teams?
this game, they will not make the college football playoff.
For both teams?
For
TCU as well?
yes, I do.
So for
I don't see TCU beating Oklahoma.
So you're saying if TCU wins,
even if they beat Ohio State, I do not see them beating Oklahoma. I'm telling you, George, I am liking this Oklahoma team this year.
At least at this point in the season.
Yes, at this point in the season, I'm liking them.
And okay, well, we know that you're a homer for Oklahoma now, but do you have a homer for any of the small schools out there? You know me with my North Texas hype.
I think
Something
you
about
mentioned
them
it earlier about Michigan State losing. Arizona State, man, 2-0.
Herm Edwards, you like this guy?
George, Arizona State's looking nice, George. Looking nice.
My. Oh my. Okay, well, I mean, I can see your point with that. They're 2-0, right? They beat UTSA and Michigan State. I mean, I guess I'm not going to argue. I'm just going to agree with that. I mean, but I'm still liking North Texas and the Mean Green. Something about them, they're 2-0 for the first time since 1994. They play Arkansas this week. I don't think they're going to beat Arkansas, but listeners, listen to this. If Arkansas loses to North Texas, so that means that North Texas would be 3-0 for like the first time I think since the 80s is what I was reading online. I will go and buy a North Texas t-shirt, jersey, sweatshirt, whatever I can find, and I will personally take a picture of it and make that the video background on YouTube for next week's broadcast. Okay? I will do that because that's how confident I am that North Texas is going to be in this Conference USA Championship. Like I said last week, I don't know if they're going to win. I'm forgetting that. They will win the Conference USA. I hope that UCF and Boise State lose somewhere down the road because if North Texas wins the Conference USA, they will be the Group of 5 representative for the New Year's 6 Bowls. Okay, you heard it here first. They've had 250 yards rushing over the last 2 games, like in each game. Arkansas lost to Colorado State. Mic drop. Okay, that's all I'm saying. So, go Mean Green, Giga Maggies, guns up for Red Raiders and
Lubbock. Tech, baby.
I think that's all the time we've got for the 5th quarter this time. We'll see you next week, and as always, don't forget we're on social media That's coming shortly, as well as on our SoundCloud, where you could hear our first podcast, on YouTube. And if you want to hear something on the show, get a shout out or something, just email us. We'd love to hear from you at theq5podcast@gmail.com. That's theq5podcast@gmail.com. So from Lubbock and from College Station, thank you, Desmond, for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you, George.
And I'm George Koff, signing off for the fifth quarter. Giga Aggies. Adios.